It's still the morning show here on Arise News. Happy New Year one more time. It's now time to take a look at news stories making headlines around the globe. We start the show with President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's nationwide broadcast addressing Nigerians on New Year's Day. The president highlighted challenges faced in 2023 and, having laid the groundwork for economic recovery plan, promised Nigerians to accelerate the pace of service delivery across the nation.
It gives me immense joy to welcome each and every one of you, young and old, to this brand new year 2024. We must lift up our hand to Almighty God in gratitude for His grace and benevolence to our country and our lives in the year 2023 that has just gone by. Though the past year was a very challenging one, it was eventful in so many ways. For our country, it was a transition year that saw a peaceful, orderly, and successful transfer of power from one administration to another, marking the yet another remarkable step in our 24 years of unbroken democracy. It was a year you, the gracious people of this blessed nation, entrusted your faith in me with a clear mandate to make our country better, to revamp our economy, restore our security within our borders, revitalize our floundering industrial sector, boost agricultural production, increase national productivity, and set our country on an irreversible path towards national progress that we and future generations will forever be proud of. The task of building a better nation and making sure we have a Nigerian society that cares for all our citizens is the reason I ran to become your president. It was the core of my renewed hope campaign message, on the basis of which you voted me as president. Everything I have done in office, every decision I've taken, and every trip I've undertaken outside the shores of our land since I assumed office on 29th May 2023 have been done in the best interest of our country. Over the past 7 months of our administration, I have taken some difficult and yet necessary decisions to save our country from fiscal catastrophe. One of those decisions was the removal of fuel subsidy, which had become an unsustainable financial burden on our country for more than 4 decades. Another was the removal of the chokehold of few people on our foreign exchange system that benefited only the rich and the most powerful among us. Without doubt, these two decisions brought some discomfort to individuals, families, and businesses. I am well aware that for some time now, the conversations and debate have centered on the rising cost of living, high inflation, which is now above 28%, and the unacceptable high underemployment rate. From the boardroom at the broad streets in Lagos to the main streets of Kano and Nembe Creeks in Bayelsa, I hear the groans of Nigerians who work hard every day to provide for themselves and their families. I'm not oblivious of the expressed and sometimes unexpressed frustrations of my fellow citizens. I know for a fact that some of our compatriots are even asking if this is how our administration wants to renew their hope. Their compatriots. Take this from me. The time may be rough and tough. However, our spirit must remain unbowed because tough times never last. We are made for this period, never to flinch, never to falter. The socio-economic challenges of today should energize and rekindle our love and faith in the promise of Nigeria. Our current circumstances should make us resolve to work better for the good of our beloved nation. Our situation should make us resolve that this new year, 2024, each and every one of us will commit to be better citizens. Silently, we have worked to free captives from abductors. While we can't beat our chest yet that we had solved all the security problems, we are working hard to ensure that we all have peace of mind in our homes, places of work, and on the roads. Having laid the groundwork of our economic recovery plans within the last 7 months of year 2023, we are now poised to accelerate the pace of our service delivery across the sectors. Just this past December, during COP28 in Dubai, the German Chancellor, Olaf Scholz, and I agreed and committed to a new deal to speed up the delivery of Siemens energy power project that will ultimately deliver reliable supply of electricity to our homes and businesses under the Presidential Power Initiative, which began in 2018. Other power installation projects to strengthen the reliability of our transmission lines and optimize the integrity of our national grid are ongoing across the country. My administration recognizes that no meaningful economic transformation can happen without steady electricity supply. In year 2024, we are moving a step further in our quest to restart local refinery of petroleum products with Port Harcourt Refinery and the Dangote Refinery, which shall fully come on stream. To ensure constant food supply, security, and affordability, we will step up our plan to cultivate 500,000 hectares of farmland across the country to grow maize, rice, wheat, millet, and other staple crops. We launched the dry season farming with 120,000 of land in Jigawa State last November under our National Wheat Development Program. And this new year, we will race against time to ensure all the fiscal and tax policies reforms we need to put in place are codified and simplified to ensure the business environment does not destroy value. On every foreign trip I have embarked on, my message to investors and other business people has been the same. Nigeria is ready and open for business. I will fight every obstacle that impedes business competitiveness in Nigeria, and I will not hesitate to remove any clog hindering our path to making Nigeria a destination of choice for local and foreign investments. In my 2024 budget presentation to the National Assembly, I listed my administration's 8 priority areas to include national defense and internal security, job creation, macroeconomic stability, investment environment, optimization, human capital development, poverty reduction, and social security. Because we take our development agenda very seriously, our 2024 budget reflects the premium we place on achieving our governance objectives. We will work diligently to make sure every Nigerian feels the impact of their government, the economic aspirations, and the material well-being of the poor, the most vulnerable, and the working people shall not be neglected. It is in this spirit that we are going to implement a new national living wage for our industrious workers this new year. It is not only good economics to do this, it's also a morally and politically correct thing to do. I took an oath to serve this country and give my best at all times. Like I said in the past, no excuse for poor performance from any of my appointees will be good enough. It is the reason I put in place a policy coordination, evaluation, monitoring, and delivery unit in the presidency to make sure that governance output improves in the living condition of our people. We have set the parameters for evaluation. Within the first quarter of this year, ministers and head of agencies with a future in this administration that I lead will continue to show themselves. Fellow Nigerians, my major ambition in government as a senator in the aborted Third Republic, as governor of Lagos State for 8 years, and now as the president of this blessed country, is to build a fair and equitable society and close the widening inequality gap, while I believe the rich should enjoy their legitimately earned wealth. Our minimum bargain must be that any Nigerian that works hard and diligent enough will have a chance to get ahead in life. I must add that because God didn't create us with equal talents and strengths, I cannot guarantee that we will have equal outcomes when we work hard. But my government, in this new year, 2024 and beyond, we work to give every Nigerian equal opportunity to strive and to thrive. For the new year to yield all its good benefits to us, as individuals and collectively as a people, we must be prepared to play our part. The job of building a prosperous nation is not the job of president. Governors, ministers, lawmakers, and government officials alone. Our destinies are connected as members of this household of Nigeria. Our language, creed, ethnicity, and religious belief, even when they are not same, should never make us work at cross purposes. In this new year, let us resolve that as joint heir to the Nigerian Commonwealth, we will work for the peace, progress, and stability of our country. I extend this call to my political opponents in the last election. Election is over. It is time for all of us to work together for the sake of our country. We must let the light each of us carries, men and women, young and old, shine bright and brighter to illuminate our path to a glorious dawn. I wish all of us a happy and prosperous year 2024. May God continue to bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
Indeed, God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Rufai, it's a new year, new speech by the President.
New year, new speech. Happy New Year to you, Aya. Happy New Year to you, Dr. Bati. Happy New Year to Nigerians out there. Happy New Year to President Tinubu. Happy New Year to everybody out there. And Happy New Year, world. New Year, new speech. It came up on a positive note. said a lot of things, reassured Nigerians that he understands the pain and suffering. But I'll say it's not just about understanding the pain and suffering. What are you going to do about it? I'm happy you said for yourself, President Tinubu, that people are beginning to ask, is this a renewed hope you promised? Yes, people are beginning to ask. Just like it was seen when you went to the mosque in Lagos Island where people were screaming at the background, "Ibin power." What it means is people are hungry. He said a lot of other things, struck all the positive notes, reassured a lot of Nigerians, called them, rallied them to success, said he's going to do a lot of things. But in that speech, I did not hear a tribute, at least some thought, for those that were killed in Jos. The attacks, Christmas period. And that's very fresh in our memories. I think it was only right to have paid tribute to them. Because these people are not just statistics. Only yesterday I was speaking to a very prominent Nigerian I will not want to mention. And she told me how one of those that were killed was somebody that worked with her. That he pretty much traveled on the 23rd. And she was telling him, oh, just wait, after Christmas you can go home. But he got to his destination, and by Christmas, he was killed already. So these people are not just statistics. They had dreams, they had family members, they had things they wanted to do in their life. They too had aspirations of 2024 being their year, like we all say. But Nigeria failed them. So I'll have thought that President Tinubu will have spared the thought for them. He talked about some high points. So what are the high points? He talked about, the Siemens deal that he spoke to with Ola Shaw. And we'd like to see that deal happen, because we too will want electricity to be able to power our industries. But I think when that deal was talked about, Dr. Abati here said something very instructive that Ola Shaw said. He said it's incumbent on us to go and fix our home, that the Germans are ready. So have we done that? This deal has been in the pipeline since 2018. All the timelines exceeded. By now, if we had followed through that deal, we ought to be getting some measurable amount of megawatt of electricity now. But it's taken us a while. The same Siemens did not see any bottlenecks in working with Egypt. One of the presidential candidates, Peter, we had to go and learn from Egypt. But we've been on this. 2018 till this time, you can do the math of how many years that has been. 6 years down the line. So are we going to get it? That's a big question. Secondly, President Tinubu talked about, investment in agriculture, 500 hectares of production and all of that. I'm taken aback a bit, and I'd like to ask, President Tinubu gave a speech a couple of months ago where he rolled out the subsidies. The palliatives for the subsidy removal. That was a speech I lauded, because I felt at a time where a lot of Nigerians needed his input, he said all the right things. And I remember I gave a caveat when he gave that speech, and asking all those palliatives that if properly implemented. But down the line, most of those things have not been properly implemented. One of the promises he made then was 150,000 hectares to be planted across states for different crops. So I'm wondering, what happened to that 150,000 hectares? At least if he had planted that 150,000 hectares, we should be having some crops come out now to be able to cushion the effect. So he's announcing another 500,000 hectares. So what happened to the Ether 2 announcement he made? That's the first one I'd like to ask. I think we need to be able to balance things out. He talked about other things, some tax reforms he's been planning will also come into play and all of that. Yes. And also he talked about the budget. So the budget I want to talk about, because only yesterday, an extra 1.2 trillion was added to the budget on Saturday before it was passed. And that was a breach of the Fiscal Responsibility Act. And a lot of people are complaining that this is reckless. Also, the 7.3 trillion to securitize ways and means. I'm sure Mr. Tilewa Alibaji will be here today. Always talks about it's illegal to securitize ways and means. But my shock is, in about the first year you got in, 7.3 trillion securitizing ways and means. I thought we blamed the last administration for over 20 trillion in ways and means. Isn't that something we should watch? So I hope when the tax reforms and everything kick in, there will be full prosperity in the land. Then he called on his opponents. Yes, he constantly says that let's come together. Elections have been won and lost. That's a good one. But also we must be able to deepen our electoral system. You see, because what we fail to realize is, it's not about partisanship, what happened in the last election. It was a destruction of the electoral body. and the destruction of the belief Nigerians had in the electoral system. That was what happened. So what are the reforms? Are we going to see the reforms in the new year? So these are part of the things we should look at in the speech. But all in all, very optimistic. Some will say it was low on detail, but the question people also ask is, it's not a policy speech, it's just a new year, feel-good speech and all of that. But I feel it missed some critical points. I also hit the nail on some critical points. And only time will tell if this resonates with a lot of people.
All right.
Well, what time will tell, that is very clear. So this morning, is that the speech delivered this morning by the president is dated. It is too obvious that that speech was recorded before the president came to Lagos, because the speech is not contemporaneous enough. And that, I think, is in itself, a scandal. It shows gross indolence on the part of those people who manage the president. And I speak as a person who had gone through this process before. Now, you could see from that delivery that since the speech was recorded in Abuja, I imagine, that there have been developments in the country. A major development will be the killings on the plateau. That was conspicuously absent in that speech. I had said, well, the president maybe did not need to go. They are having sent a very powerful delegation. But to they speak to Nigerians on New Year Day and not reflect his awareness and understanding of the killings on the plateau, and considering the fact that only yesterday, 5 more persons were murdered in Boko's local government area, just shows and confirms how dated that speech is. And I put it down to the indolence of his managers. Because wherever the president is, there's enough facility to update speeches, to change recordings. It's not as if it's a lengthy presentation. They could have updated the speech, do a fresh recording yesterday, and it will have been up to date. The other major omission is that on Saturday, the National Assembly of Nigeria passed the 2024 appropriation bill, although there are many problems with that, as analysts have pointed out, specifically Dr. Dele Shobowale, saying that that budget is dead on arrival, and that the only indications that you could pick out of it as a professional economist is scarcity, uncertainty, and chaos, and that 2024 will be a more difficult year for Nigerians. But the president could have piggybacked on the details of what the Senate did and also addressed that, because that's also something very fresh. But there was no reference to that in that speech. Now, to the details. The president said we voted for him because he promised us renewed hope, and that he's working hard at it and is committed to delivering on that. And he said a number of things that are important to him. Food scarcity, to address food scarcity, to address electricity supply, to address the refineries. Would the refineries work? There's no certainty in that regard. And maybe that's the uncertainty that Dele Shobowale is talking about. Now he's talking about food supply. What is the guarantee that you can have food supply if there is still insecurity in the country? The president says in that speech, in fact, that security in the country has improved. Now, how do you say that to Nigerians just less than a week after people were being killed almost on a daily basis in over 58 communities in Plateau? How does that provide a justification for the claim that you make? He said electricity supply. At a time when power generation, power supply, power distribution in Nigeria is in the dark alley of 4,000 megawatts for over 200 million people. So how is that improvement in power supply? The president also talked about his commitment to attracting foreign investment, FDI, at a time within the same week that the National Bureau of Statistics announced to us that capital importation to the country has fallen, and that 27 states of the Federation attracted zero importation of capital. And at a time where we've been told that companies are leaving Nigeria, P&G has left, Jumia may follow, ShopRite is following, other companies like that are leaving Nigeria in droves. Is this contradiction not clear to the president and the drafters of his message on New Year Day? However, he admitted that there is a lot of hardship in the country as a result of foreign exchange crisis and the removal of fuel subsidy. But the economists argue that fuel subsidy, in fact, has not been removed. That fuel subsidy, in fact, is returning. And that if care is not taken in 2024, fuel subsidy will return in full force. Now, the president then puts the responsibility on all of us. He said in that piece that we are joint heirs of the Commonwealth, and we also have a responsibility. Yes, we the people have a responsibility, but what we keep saying is that government cannot keep telling us to make sacrifice, and government is not listening. The conspicuous consumption that was demonstrated by way of the president going to the mosque to go and pray on Friday in Lagos, and he had a convoy that looked like he was going to war. Nobody goes to the mosque to go and wage war. They go there to pray to God, to seek the face of God. I mean, I've been part of a presidential convoys at home and abroad when I served in government. The convoy that I saw on that Friday just to go to mosque, I think that was unprecedented. And Lagos being the major political base of the president, you ask the question, what is he afraid of? So when it comes to us on New Year Day, and he says, we the people must make sacrifice because the country belongs to all of us. Well, are our leaders showing that this country belongs to all of us, and they themselves are ready to make the necessary sacrifice? The other point that I find disturbing in the president's New Year message, and I hope they won't do it again, by paying attention to necessary details, is that it is full of, again, promises. 7 months after, it is promises. We will step up our plan. We will do this. We hope to do this. We hope to do that. I thought that the standard practice is the imitative declaration of achievements within 100 days. In that whole speech, on New Year Day, 7 months after, I think it's quite disturbing that the president could not point to concrete achievements of what his administration has been able to do. The only thing he pointed out, is neither here nor there. He said we had a successful transition in 2023. Well, he can say that because he's the main beneficiary. I don't think that those who lost out in that process would be saying the same thing. And he says he will fight every obstacle in the way of business commitment. Okay, which obstacles is he going to fight, really? Is it the foreign exchange crisis? Is it the devaluation of the naira? Is it the lack of confidence and trust on the part of the Nigerian people? Is it the creeping pandemic of empty pockets that Nigerians are groaning under? The fact that they couldn't even have access ahead of the festive period to their money trapped in the banks. With banks in Nigeria now, I've never heard it, that banks will say they don't have money. But in Nigeria, this is the reality. Even the banks don't have money. Even the money that you have kept in the banks, they say they don't have it. So clearly, 2024 appears like it will be a very challenging year. I think we should leave the destination of promises upon promises. Nigerians want concrete action. And one missing element in that New Year message by the president is that there was no concrete policy element. We will do this. We will do this. This is what we have planned to do. Or New Year Day, this is a policy we have adopted to give us a sense of direction. We are still at the same point where we were 7 months ago. Promises, renewed hope. Well, hope is good, Christians will say, but concrete action, concrete measures, as Joe Ajero has argued, as Bishop Matthew Azan Kuka has argued, as Cardinal John Oyanikon, the Catholic Bishop Emeritus of Abuja, has argued is what the Nigerian people need. And that's what they look forward to in 2024, Mr. President.
Well, for a first New Year's speech by Mr. President, unfortunately, it was quite lightweight. And the reason I've said that this morning is because the mandate on which the president ran and which he's continued as a mantra in his administration is that of renewed hope. And more than ever in Nigeria currently, the people need hope. In fact, one of the reasons why people still wake up and move around is because there's a glimmer of hope that things will be better, and the trust is on the leaders to ensure that things actually are better. And the responsibility of a leader is to deal in hope, is to sell hope, even beyond having the mantra of renewed hope. And therefore you'd imagine or expect that the president, who has chanted a number of times the Renewed Hope Initiative, the Renewed Hope Agenda, would come with a trailer load of hope for the people of Nigeria who are in dire need of it currently. Unfortunately, the about 13 minutes you watched a few minutes ago didn't quite project that hope for Nigerians. In fact, the number of people would have expected, and maybe I would center on that, what would have liked to hear this morning on New Year's Day. Nigerians are feeling despondent. The president himself acknowledged that inflation is at over 28% currently in the country. There's the removal of fuel subsidy has put on a tough hardship on the people in the last few months. It is his first time to address the nation, the beginning of the year when people have left the old and there's renewed sense of, okay, this is a new year, it's time to get things right, perhaps things will be better. And so we expected to see that or hear that a bit more in his speech. The only thing he did in that speech was, yes, acknowledge the fact that people had faced hardship. He had to make necessary decisions, policy changes that he acknowledged had affected Nigerians. But what we wanted to hear from our president was what was going to be good for Nigerians in the year 2024. Aside just touching very lightly, I must say, in light of recent events, and like Dr. Bati had mentioned, perhaps now we understand why this was so. On security matters, which is the first on his 8-point agenda, even the previous president, as criticized as he was with his reaction or perhaps disposition to addressing very difficult times in the nation, acknowledged at different times during his New Year speeches about the deaths of those or people we had lost the previous year, an acknowledgement of people who didn't make it to the new year. And following the loss of lives in the last few months, one would have thought the president would have, in showing empathy, in showing leadership, have started on that note to acknowledge the fact that things, when it comes to security, while still a work in progress, would acknowledge the sacrifices of people who had to pay the ultimate price. And I think it was also an opportunity to speak to the military as well, because they've come under fire in the last few weeks, especially with what's happened in Plateau State and in other parts of the nation. So it was an opportunity to, as the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, to also speak to that as well. Unfortunately, that didn't come out strongly in his speech. Also economic hardship. Yes, he talked about farming, putting out land. I thought it was an opportunity for him to demonstrate in the last 7 months what his administration had achieved in the area of alleviating the poverty or the sufferings of the people. It would have been a great opportunity for him to showcase perhaps what the Ministry for Humanitarian Affairs had done. At least they said they'd done some conditional cash transfers. In my humble opinion, his handlers ought to have infused that in his speech. When you want to infuse hope or bring hope to people, you demonstrate what has been done to give them a taste of what is to come, that things will get better. Nigerians want to hear that currently. And perhaps it goes again to asking the question, do you understand the sufferings of the people? So yes, it's not a policy speech. However, right now, what Nigerians want to hear is that things will get better. And more than that, is how things will get better. He talked about Nigeria being the destination for investment, right soundbite, but unfortunately, the evidence is glaring that we are not quite ready for that. The first thing, again, and that's why I thought security ought to have featured prominently in his speech, ought to have been securing lives and property, words, speeches, what you're looking forward to as a leader is that people want to wake up to your speech early in the morning on New Year's Day and having listened to you speak as the Commander-in-Chief of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, feel a sense of hope. Unfortunately, the renewed hope he said people were not feeling was not in any way improved by this morning's speech. And so the details have been talked about in terms of things he ought to have perhaps said a bit more, or, analyzing some of the things he mentioned. But I thought there was a fine moment there to again regalvanize hope in the people of Nigeria. Unfortunately, it fell below that expectation. Well, we move on to other stories, focusing on how various parts of the world ushered in 2024. 6 record-breaking firework feats, drone shows, dazzling performances were on show as Dubai stepped into 2024 with hope for a beautiful new year. Abu Dhabi skies lit up with a whopping 40 minutes of fireworks and a show put up by 5,000 drones, while Dubai's Burj Khalifa glowed with its brightest, biggest and most colorful display yet. And here are images of the traditional fireworks display over Sydney Harbour as Australia ushered in the New Year 2024. As the clock struck midnight in Australia's largest city, Sydney, a 12-minute fireworks display erupted around the Sydney Harbour Bridge. More than 1 million people watched from the shore and boats in the harbour. Similarly, Londoners braved the lashing rain and strong winds to usher in the new year as the nation came together to kick off 2024 in spectacular style. Despite the miserable weather, revelers flocked to the banks of the Thames to witness the traditional London fireworks, which lit up the London Eye as Big Ben struck midnight. And in Paris, thousands of people gathered on the Champs-Élysées to usher in the new year. Our correspondent, Ojiope, was live in Paris.
The countdown has begun. I am standing right here on the iconic Champs-Élysées, and the fireworks display is just right behind me. As you can see, the Arc de Triomphe has been lit up to usher in the new year. I am standing right now waiting for the fireworks to go off. I will count down with you. It's a great time to be in Paris. We know that there are so many events to look forward to, especially as the city will host the upcoming Summer Olympics. Let's count down together. Happy New Year! Happy New Year! Live from Paris, we are bringing you all of the spectacular moments. I hope you all are enjoying this moment with us. Happy New Year!
And here in Lagos, Nigeria's commercial nerve center, who welcomed the new year in grand style with the state governor, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, promising a bumper economy. All right, we will show you that particular footage from our Lagos countdown. It was very colorful. Rotus and Leila were there live to bring us reports of how Lagos, on behalf of Nigeria, crossed over into the new year 2024. But we saw, images, footage, and it's so good to see the fireworks, the people lined up on the streets just to experience the crossover with others. So,
I mean, like every year.
Oh, there we have it. Sorry,
Okay,
hold on a
that's
second.
Lagos.
That's Lagos. Don't sleep, don't sleep. Wake up.
Wake up, wake up, wake up.
Lagos is awake at midnight to, usher in the year 2024.
But I'd love to see the Lagos fireworks. I didn't see a lot of the fireworks.
It was a bit of fireworks.
Oh, just a bit. Okay. Okay. Moving on. So, I mean, every year like this, we start off with the Sydney Harbour Bridge giving us a show. Because I think New Zealand gets into the new year before Sydney, but Sydney is very more prominent in the celebration. Then it cascades. Then over the years, and that's to show that, Nigeria needs to step up, honestly. In the late 90s, we didn't used to have the Dubai fireworks topping the charts as regards fireworks. But all of a sudden, you've seen Dubai crept up on us and some other countries in the Middle East, and they've just emerged like that. So now you see Dubai, which I think pretty much did it. I'd love to also see the fireworks in Beijing or Shanghai in China. And I also love to see the fireworks. But we saw that of France. We saw that of the UK. There was rain yesterday. I was following the show with Judita da Silva yesterday. Yeah. I said at some point there was a little skirmish that some people had to run in. They had to evacuate people, and afterwards they got out there. But the Big Ben, the London Eye, has always been there, for this fireworks and celebration. But also, there's also a commercial side to all of these celebrations.
Of course.
It's also a way to be able to sell the city. And at least I'm happy that Lagos have started off, to be part of this bandwagon. And these are things that sell the city. There's an economy for New Year festivities, because a lot of people come out there to be part of the show. They spend money, they book hotels and all of that. So we should also look at the economic angle to it. But it's a New Year 2024. We all say it's going to be a great year for all of us. We want it to be a great year. But for it to be great, it's incumbent on what you make your year. I know there will be a lot of uncertainties that you don't have control over, but you need to be disciplined, you need to be forthright. It's not about just those prayers and this thing a lot of people say, New Year resolution. No. Sorry, I'm sorry, I don't believe in it. I believe as you lay your bed, so you lie on it. And we must be able to do well. But the festivities are always great. The pantry always great. You see the fireworks everywhere, always great. But also, the fireworks you see is also a reflection of the prosperity of those nations.
You didn't just say the Lagos one was spectacular, but what I heard.
Okay, New Year began early yesterday in certain parts of the world. In Kiribati, in Oceania, very early by 6 a.m. Within their time zone. Later in Kritimati, also in Oceania. And then later we had Kritimati, by the way, is also known as Christmas Island. And then later we had Samoa in Tonga. Auckland, New Zealand, followed by Australia, places like Sydney, Adelaide, and Brisbane. And then, of course, this is a tradition. All through the day yesterday, we were having reports of, New Year celebrations. This is a tradition that began on January 153 BCE under the Georgian calendar. And since then, we've been having celebrations in different time zones, heralding the New Year with a chorus of revelry across the world. And yesterday was no different in human history as you have seen it. Two major events yesterday that I would like us to take note of. The Big Ben chimed in the New Year for the 100th time. I made a point in another program that the Big Ben in London, began to herald the New Year on December 31st, 1923. And now it's 100 years after, when the Big Ben heralded the new year at 12 midnight, British Standard Time, yesterday, BST. And then, of course, yesterday, December 31, was also momentous in a certain regard. Queen Margaret of Denmark decided to step down after over 50 years on the throne. She's now 83. She had back injury surgery in January, and now she says she's handing over to her son, Prince Frederick. So this year, Denmark is likely to have a new king and a new royal couple, in the new year. And the Prime Minister was full of praise for Queen Margaret, who today is the longest surviving monarch in the whole of Europe. So the new year brought a lot of excitement and also new expectations. And for us in Nigeria, we've been talking about expectations, and our government has an obligation to meet those obligations.
Well, exciting way to usher in the year. And yesterday, Arise had front row seats across different cities in the world to bring you live updates as to how different cities ushered in the new year. And I was able to catch Adefemi in Dubai, which had one of the most spectacular displays this year. The beautiful thing about the UAE, especially Dubai, is that they're always trying to outdo. They're in competition with the rest of the world. And this year, with their 40-minute display, definitely perhaps one of the front runners in terms of the splendor, the beauty, the people. Yesterday, Adefemi was saying that it costs about $1,000 to reserve a restaurant close to the Burj Khalifa just to be able to have a good view and then celebrate afterwards with family members and friends the beautiful display there. But going back to Sydney, if you look at the history, the amount of time, approximately 18 months planning goes into the Sydney fireworks. It has become one of the most anticipated events, not just in the country, but across the world, with 1 million people gathering at the Sydney Harbour, around the Sydney Harbour, to witness it firsthand, and close to hundreds of millions of people watching online from different parts of the world. And of course, because it's one of the first cities, or has the first city to display a big show across the world, a lot of people tune into the Sydney Harbour, and they always bring on a show with a theme each year. Going over to London, the theme this year was actually London for Everyone. And we saw there the clips from Big Ben, London's Big Ben, and that is the London Eye right there. Beautiful display as well. And here in Lagos State, beautiful display as well in Lagos State. And I'm glad that, understanding the commercial value. In other parts of the world, there's a gate fee to be able to see in some parts. Lagos State, I believe, did it for free. And perhaps just the businesses that be affected, the hotels around, tourism industry in Lagos. I love the fact that they are tapping into this excellent way of ushering in 2024. But there were fireworks across Lagos. We could hardly sleep because from 12 midnight till about 1 a.m., even till this morning, I had fireworks in different places. Move on to a big one from the Big Apple, New York City, as it's loved for its boisterous energy, and the streets in Times Square is full of it. Rise News was live in Times Square, where thousands of pigeons around the world, or people and pigeons, are getting their hearts, perking their lips, and reading their alarms as they usher in a brand new year. The Times Square ball drop has been live for 6 hours, and a Rise News correspondent, Kachi Ofia, took us through the heart of it all.
We have spent at least 6 hours waiting for this moment, and it's here. It's finally here. Happy New Year to every other person watching the show, and from New York, it is definitely a very happy New Year.
New
such beautiful moments there captured, or beautiful moments captured there in the Big Apple, New York. Yeah. Thanks, Kachi. I was going to ask you, Rufai, I think I know who Dr. ushered in the New Year with, because we saw people hugging and kissing in some... Rufai, who did you usher in the New Year with?
Nobody.
We have to change that in 2024. So that by 2024 New Year's Eve, or on the first day of 2025, you're hugging and kissing a significant other.
Amen.
I'm sure Dr. Bati would agree with me.
Amen.